Hello. Today is May 19th, so we read Proverbs 19 and Jeremiah 35. So Jeremiah 35, I like the whole chapter because it was about keeping covenant and staying true to what was promised, stuff like that. So, or like keeping obedient. Like what were the people? The Rebellikites. It was some group of people, I forgot, but they had to,
the whole family of Rechab.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So they had to be obedient and whatnot. So it's important to be obedient so that we will be blessed. And other people I was watching, especially people like younger generations. Like my generation, I guess not so much anymore, but still, like we watch the people who are older than us and we observe what they do. So it has an effect on how we act. So it's important to keep that in mind. It's not all on you, but just the things we observe from older generations has an effect on what we do and what we don't do, and learn from the mistakes that we've seen or see what works for like older people or whatever. Yeah.
Give an example.
Not rushing into marriages that aren't grounded, or that shouldn't have never been formed in the first place. Mm-hmm. So really thinking things through and praying about stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's good. And this whole chapter is talking about honoring the traditions and the wishes of the ancestors. Now, if you remember, this chapter was talking about the family, how the ancestors were telling the children, the descendants, to not drink wine, to not live in a house or build a house. They were to live in tents, and they had some other, not to plant any fields or vineyards, right? And that made me think in verses 3 to 11 and 18 and 19, what are the values, the family traditions that you want to focus in on? Because it affects the generation, the present one. And I thought about the values that as a family, you see your generation, your friends, maybe honor from their parents or grandparents. What are some values that they really focus in on?
Much.
Oh, that's not true. No, you have a lot of friends. Hard work, truth, telling, being of integrity. I wrote some values that I believe was passed down from my parents. I went to a homegoing today of my father's brother's wife, and it brought back a lot of memories of my childhood. And my cousin eulogized from Proverbs 31, and we know that talks about King Lemuel's mother and the virtuous woman. And my aunt was so domesticated. She was such a hardworking woman. She took pride in her home. She would not let people go in her refrigerator without them washing their hands. Mm-hmm. She had high standards. Those were traditions that were passed down to her children, and you better believe it, to her great-grandchildren. So there's so many values to pass on, and to, just to make sure that you observe them yourself. What about in Proverbs 19?
Verse 20. Can you read that for me?
Proverbs 19, verse 20, I know talks about a lot in that chapter as far as truth, as far as integrity, as far as laziness, as far as you weren't ready. Hear counsel and receive instruction, that thou mayest be wise in thy latter end.
That's about it. So it's important to be receptive. I understand, sometimes when I get older, or as I've gotten older, I think I know more. But actually, I should listen even more now that I'm getting older, because the stakes are higher for me. So, yeah, I want to be more open and listening.
Amen. To be observant and to learn from the elders, the generations from the past, so that you can have the quality of life that the Lord has promised you. Okay. Hope you have a wonderful evening listening and observing the elders.
All right.